Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ending Explained, and today we are talking about BLACKBEAR. If you're new to the channel, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and without any further ado, let's talk about Aubrey Plaza in BLACKBEAR. So, the movie was written by Lawrence Michael Levine, who is actually married to a director as well. He said that he had easy access through a friend to this actual cabin that's seen in the movie, this lake house. And there's a lot of overlap between cast and crew on set and people who were the cast and crew see in the movie. So a lot of the times, if they didn't have a speaking line, they were probably a real cast member because there are no extras in this movie. Lawrence Michael Levine said that he worked with Aubrey Plaza on a TV show and that she seemed open to the idea. And originally, what this movie was supposed to be, his original concept was that Part 2 was going to be behind the scenes of Part 1. There's basically two interviews you can watch online on YouTube. One is from the AV Club, the other one is from Entertainment Weekly. They both dropped today. They're pretty cool. And when you really get it down to it, you know, he basically goes on to say that he wanted to write a story that had a different narrative to it. And I think he basically was trying to do a semi-unofficial, quasi-biographical, but not really, of what he was going through as far as, like, you know, behind the scenes, the intricacies of filmmaking, what that's all like, but it's not directly autobiographical. This is my takeaway from this film, and be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you thought, because, you know, in both videos, Lawrence Michael Levine says that he intentionally didn't want to nail down a specific ending or interpretation for the film. It's meant to be a little open-ended, but let me give you mine. I think there are 4 different layers to this movie. Alright, so layer number 1 is essentially everything you see with Allison going to the Airbnb bread and breakfast where she meets Gabe and Blair. They're a couple. Blair is pregnant. You know, there's a little bit of tension. Clearly, Gabe and Blair are incompatible with one another. They have that really awkward dinner scene where they can't agree on anything from their past. They keep disagreeing with one another. And Allison is very much an Aubrey Plaza character, that she's kind of like, you know, off the beaten path, and she's different, and she's dangerous, and she's everything that Blair is not. And then it ends with down back at the pool house, 2 of them get it on, Gabe and Allison, and then all of a sudden, Blair finds them. She seems to be going into labor, or something is wrong with the baby. They have to get to the hospital. They get in the van, they drive down the road, Bear pops out onto the road, bam, they hit a tree, cut to black. Alright, so that's layer number 1. Layer number 2 is a filmmaking scene. It's about an hour long as well. Everything going on is this strange, over-the-top, meta filmmaking, much like Birdman type of movie being done. And all of this whole movie feels like a theater piece. This reminds me back when I was in college taking Acting 101 for an elective. It feels like theater kids doing theater. Not to say that it's bad. It is what it is. And I'm watching this, and yeah, it's basically the inverse of everything going on in part 1. Only this time, Allison is the one who is married to Gabe, and Blair is the so-called mistress or potential mistress in the scenario. It's around this point that I'm watching the movie going, I wonder if this is what Blair is thinking. Like, what if they're in a coma? What if Blair is in a coma? Or what if somebody died, or God knows what, but like, what if this feels like Blair is saying, you know, I just wish Allison or Gabe can see what it would be like to be me. You know, turn it on its head a little bit. You know, she's a big, fancy Hollywood actress slash director. How would she feel if this stuff happened to her? And all of part 2 is like a dream sequence of that. You know, it's showing you the inverse. It's almost like Allison getting a taste of her own medicine that Blair thinks that she should be getting. That was one interpretation that I had watching the filmmaking section. I remember when I was watching the AV interview on YouTube, they were talking about how Chris Abbott's character is made up to be very much over the top. You know, the glasses, the vest, the whole bit. And he's very much acting like Stanley Kubrick in The Shining with Shelley Duvall. He is just abusive and manipulative and just the worst director type ever, doing these terrible things to Allison to try to get the right performance out of her. Very much like The Shining, indeed. But as far as part 1 and part 2, they both feel very dreamlike, and I feel like the bear is the significance of that dream, because they both appear at the end of it. You know, the bear is kind of like that thing that happens in a real dream, where it doesn't make any sense, and you just look at it and go, wait a second, am I in a dream? And then boom, you wake up. So, when the bear pops up at the end of part 2, to me, part 2 is the dream. Part 2 is the dream inside the head of maybe someone who's potentially in a coma or just asleep after the accident of part 1. So that's my layer 1, my layer 2. Layer 3 would be outside of all that. You have Allison, who is, you know, formerly an actress who's trying to think of ideas on the dock, and she's just sitting there. And maybe all part 1 and part 2 are in her head. She's just thinking about all of it. She goes inside, she writes down, you know, Black Bear. She's writing the movie, you know, and you have to wonder, is like part 1 or part 2 something that actually happened in her life? You don't know. So there you go. We got part 1, part 2, part 3. Then she looks directly at us, at the camera, and I go, are they making a movie? Is that what we're doing right now? Is she in a movie? Are we gonna... I swear to God, I was waiting for the camera to turn around to see like a full crew. So I'm like, alright, so we got the story of the movie, we have the behind the scenes of the movie, then we go out one step further, and it turns out we're all in Allison's head, thinking about her next project. She has writer's block, and then maybe we go back even one more step, we take another step back, and we find that, wait, we're in the movie again. We're making a movie about making a movie about making a movie. Oh my... Alright, damn. And obviously, you know, we're dealing with, you know, themes of Hollywood. Like I said, it's very much like Birdman in that way. Dealing with themes of adultery and marriage and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that would be my interpretation of it, is I would say that for the most part, far and large, it's probably about a writer's block for a writer-director. I definitely think that part 2 was a dream part inside of Dream 1, if nothing else. Like I said, Christopher Abbott was talking about how his character was purposely made to be over the top, and I feel like that was probably because it was meant to be more of a dream than anything else. So, yeah, you know, it does feel like a dream for one another. Part 1 could be a dream part 2, and part 2 could be a dream part 1. You know, they could be dreaming of each other. You know, it kind of reminded me of Fight Club a little bit, when he says, you're a voice in mine. You know, you're a voice in my head, you're a voice in mine. You know, you really don't know which one is real. But both of them end with that bear, man, that black bear. And I think that black bear is just there to symbolize that we're in a dream. That was my take from it anyway. Especially in part 2, because that bear is just chilling. And if part 2, the filmmaking scene, is meant to be real at all, there's no way Allison would have survived. That bear would have eaten her, you know? So that was just my interpretation of it. I think, far and large, this is just a girl sitting on a pier thinking about writing her next movie. But be sure to comment down below, what did you think about it? What do you think was real? What do you think was not real? You know, I know Lawrence Michael Levine said that it's meant to be open to interpretation. I like the idea that even in the very, very end, when she's looking at the camera, I like to think that there's a movie scene, there's a movie crew behind her, and they're just like making a movie. Like, I like that 5 layers of Inception deep idea. So be sure to comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. This movie, Black Bear, is now on video on demand where streaming services are available. I have been John, you've been Burned, and we will see you next time.